Hosea 8 shows us the downfall of the self-reliable church or the self-reliable Christian. It begins with verses 1 through 3 and the spiritual delusion that they have. They think they know the Lord. They think they've been paying some lip service to him, and they say even, "My God, we know you. Why are you sending judgment upon us?" Of course, the judgment is coming. They don't actually know God. They are hypocrites in this manner. It's what we see in a lot of folks around us. They think they know God, and they'll say, my God, I know you." Jesus says, people will say, "Lord, Lord, did we not do all these good works in your name?" But he will say, "Away from me, I never knew you." These are the same people in the Old Testament. He does not know, even though they are spiritually deluded, thinking they know him. They have relied upon being children of Abraham. They've relied upon their circumcision, upon their good works for salvation, instead of relying upon the Messiah to come. Secondly, verses 4 through 6, we see will worship. We see that they reject the ways of the Lord and rather want to, one, set up a government of their own. They set up their own kings, not the kings God has given them. Secondly, they have set up their own methods of worship through silver and gold and idols, through the calf at Samaria, and the Lord rejects it. This is a reminder to keep the first and especially the second commandment. When it comes to worship, we cannot worship and rely upon ourselves and our own wills as to how God ought to be worshiped. He rejected their calves. He rejected their idols. Still today, God rejects the incense, the liturgical dance, the announcements in the middle of worship. He rejects these things as he has not commanded them. We don't get to worship God in ways that we find pleasing, but we must worship God in ways that he finds pleasing. And hopefully we find what he finds pleasing ourselves. But we find their own reliability in worship and in government. Thirdly, verses 7 through 10, we find them not seeking God's will. They seek their own will, their own paths, and what happens? Well, they sow idolatry, they sow disobedience, and they reap the whirlwind. They reap the consequences and produce the judgment that God is bringing to them. And this is a problem when we don't seek the Lord's will, especially in major things in life, but really in all things, right? Where should I go to school? Who should I marry? What job should I take? Where should I worship? Are we seeking God's will, which really is just to say, are we praying? And are we reading his word? We must be relying upon the Lord in these times, seeking his will and not ours. And lastly, we see love for God, or rather the Israelites' lack of love for God. They are not obeying his law. The scriptures tell us, Jesus tells us, right? If we love him, we will keep his commands. We will keep his law. And that's just generally how we interact with people. If we love somebody, it delights us to please them. And so we ask them what they like, what they don't like. And then we try to do or not do those things. Likewise with the Lord, if we love him, we will keep his commandments and do what delights him and not do what does not delight him. But Israel had forgotten her maker. She was not looking to the Lord, her creator, not just the one who created them, but the one who made them a special nation, set them apart, set them to be holy. They have forgotten this. They have forgotten why they should love the Lord, because he has done this. He has been gracious and merciful and saved them, and they do not obey. And there is something good here to remember our maker. Remember that, one, we are made out of nothing in the image of God. We are not made from stardust and evolved. It's kind of a bleak future if that's the case. But rather, the Christian has a maker who has, one, made him out of nothing, from the dirt, from Adam, but also has made him a new creation in Christ so that we have a future of becoming more like Jesus Christ. And he is the one then that we are to rely on to become what God has made us and has predestined us to be. And so what do we do then? Well, we recognize our own sins of being overly self-reliable, not seeking God's will, not loving him. We turn to Jesus, we repent and turn to the one who was perfectly obedient, the one who perfectly obeyed to garner all righteousness to give to us as if we did it. And we rely upon that. That way we can stand at judgment day and not hear, away from me, I never knew you, but hear, well done, good and faithful servant. You have relied upon the Lord.